Hello, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. We're going to try this one again. It's been a little over 2 weeks since the last launch opportunity of this particular launch since that happened. And now, finally, they're back at it to try and launch the first set of Kuiper satellites. This is, to me, I'm just excited about this one because I want to see what else is, going to be competing against SpaceX's, Starlink, which is so prolific. We see that launching 100 plus times a year. So I'm just excited to kind of see something else, see how other people are going to compete. We'll talk a lot more about that. I'm sure that's probably the biggest questions that people have is, how is that gonna, how's that gonna work? So let's get into this right away. I think the first thing I kind of want to do is we're gonna take you over to, so we aren't really doing pre-launch previews anymore on everydayastronaut.com. It's just become way too much to manage with hundreds of launches a year. So I personally just rely on Next Spaceflight, and you can go over to their website, nextspaceflight.com. They're partner also with NSF, and they have a really cool app which I highly recommend. That's how I always stay up to date with launches. It's kind of how I've always done it, even for 5 or 6 years. Anyway, this will kind of give us, we'll use this as a little pre-launch preview to see what's going to be going on today. So today, as you can tell in the top left-hand corner of your screen, we're going to be seeing a launch happen in 28 minutes if all goes right. And this is Project Kuiper, KA01. And this is Amazon's competition to Starlink. This is a global constellation for internet. And it's, like I said, it's the first real competition, a first real constellation we've seen trying to compete against SpaceX. And they're doing that today with their first full launch on a Atlas V. And this particular Atlas V is the biggest, baddest Atlas V there is, which makes this launch extra fun. And that's, of course, the 551. So the 5-meter fairing, 5 solid rocket boosters, 1 single RL-10 engine on the upper stage. And that's why they're needing this, is they're yeeting a lot of pretty big satellites up into orbit. So this is also taking off, by the way. The launch location, this one's launching out of Florida from Slick 41, which is where they take off from. So Slick 41 is at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. There we go. So this is called KA1, and it's the mega constellation. There's initially going to be 27 satellites on this particular launch here today. There's going to be about 3,000 satellites. This is the first of 8 Atlas V launches, one of a few remaining. So Atlas V has about a dozen launches remaining right now. Ironically, so I was looking into this a little bit earlier today because I was trying to figure it out myself. There's 8 Kuiper that have been purchased on Atlas V. By the way, Atlas V is not retired. That's probably the number one question right now, is I thought Atlas V was retired. No, Atlas V hasn't been retired. We do, of course, have Vulcan flying with ULA, but the Atlas V, Amazon purchased a handful of these when they were still producing them. So there's 8 for Kuiper, there's 1 for Viasat, and then there's I shouldn't say at least. There's 3 hard purchased for Boeing Starliner. If that could change, if something changes in that program. With up to 6. There's supposed to be 6 operational missions of that program. So I'm not sure where the rest of them will come from, if they have to fly another test flight mission, and if they have to fly, another certification mission, and then the 6 operational. I'm not sure where they're all going to come from. If ULA, I don't know. I guess they can still make them. But that's what we're expecting to see here today. Like I said, taking off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This is the 89th orbital launch attempt this year. The first mission for ULA this year. And the 102nd overall Atlas V mission of the year, or 102nd Atlas V period, first of the year, of course. So, we're hoping to see Vulcan ramp up a lot, because right now, as you can tell, the Atlas V not launching very often. Vulcan's not, it's only launched twice so far. Hoping to see that thing fly more often, but I guess we'll kind of just have to wait and see. By the way, for those of you that happened to be around last time when we ended up waiting, there's a 2-hour launch window here today. We waited for the entire 2-hour launch window, and we got so bored waiting for the scrubs because of a weather constraint that we played Kerbal Space Program, and I still realize I have that literally open and running for the last 18 days here on my computer. My computer loves me. I treat it so well, and It is so friendly. That's so hopefully we don't have to do that again today. I'm going to try to get the YouTube stuff pulled up here. Okay, we do actually have a transmission, and they're getting close to starting. So once they start talking, I'm going to kind of be quiet, but like I said, as per usual, I will try to answer your questions, and we'll get into it as this happens. And of course, just ask your questions. We have a couple mods, hopefully, I think, that are able to help pull in a few questions, and we'll get those in front of me as well. So let's see. This is from Gav O'Toole asking, has the trajectory changed or is it the same from the last scrub? So the trajectory should be the same. I don't think they have to change anything based on the scrub and based on the different data. Wow, look at that. But there's, like I said, there's a handful of shelves. So each of these satellites has to go into like a different orbital plane, right? So, here we go. We're about to start talking. And we have closed captions on. We don't want those. So basically, they can just target a different inclination and basically keep the same trajectory. If I remember right, this first one's at like a roughly a 50 degree inclination. I actually don't remember. I think I had that last time, and now I forgot. It's already, that slips my mind after 2 weeks. But, that's a cool looking thing. Okay, let's listen in here, see what they have to say.
Good evening, and welcome to live coverage of ULA's Atlas V launch of Amazon's inaugural Project Kuiper mission. I'm Caleb Weiss, a systems engineer at ULA, and I'm joined by Britt Porcelli, a propulsion engineer. It's great to be back here, Britt, after we got scrubbed during our first attempt due to weather.
Yeah, Caleb, it's always a pleasure to be here with you in the booth. And for all of you joining, we are actually reporting from you live from ULA's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Liftoff is scheduled for 7 p.m. Eastern at the opening of today's 2-hour launch window. Launch windows vary by mission and are determined by the payload's destination. Today's mission is going to low Earth orbit, or LEO as we refer to it, and has multiple orbit insertion opportunities. So for today's flight, if the rocket and the payload are ready, and if weather permits better than last time, we expect to have Atlas lift off at 7 p.m.
And always nice to have a 2-hour window. Sometimes we have much shorter ones, even instantaneous. So to have that extra time, just in case the team is working any issues today, is really nice to have. We'll be covering today's mission through the start of second stage engine first burn. For additional real-time mission coverage, follow along with our live blog at ulalaunch.com. And if you enjoy watching our live broadcasts, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for access to future missions, launch highlights, and behind-the-scenes rocket content.
At this time, the team is not working any issues and we're proceeding towards a 7 p.m. liftoff. Today's mission is dedicated to 3 teammates who are no longer with us. Let's hear about their legacies.
So there's going to be copyright strike music probably, so we'll take this time to go ahead and answer a few questions, but we should take a moment to recognize this. I do love that they dedicate their launches to friends and colleagues. I think that's really cool. So, cheers. That's awesome. So this is from Final Spartan asking, why don't they launch on SpaceX? Well, they actually are. They have purchased 3 Falcon 9 launches. I think they've purchased 18 Ariane 6 launches. They have however many New Glenn launches eventually to kind of backfill that. And they even have a handful, like 38 or something, or 40, a lot of Vulcan launches as well. So they purchased, they're trying to get they're trying to get this constellation up and running as quickly as possible, because they do actually only have a limited window here where they have to get a certain amount of satellites up into orbit in order to fulfill their, you basically reserve like a bandwidth and a with the FCC, you have to be able to fly a certain amount of your constellation before that expires. Otherwise, you can't. Otherwise, people can just park on a thing and say, "Yeah, we'll launch," but they actually require that you launch half of them by that time. So, so it is vital that they actually start launching these things and launch them pretty quickly. I mean, we're talking pretty aggressively. I don't remember what the exact cutoff is, but they got to get going.
Look at Atlas V on the launch pad again. We were talking earlier, Brett, how it's nice to be back here after getting scrubbed for weather during our first attempt. we were scrubbed out for cumulus clouds, but those weather rules are just as important as any other flight rule. So we got to take them seriously. But weather's looking a lot better today, and glad to be back here, ready to get this mission launched.
Yeah, and that's just one of the perks of launching off the coast of Cape Canaveral. So you can have beautiful weather all day long, and then in an instant, it can turn to a heavy rainstorm coming in the afternoon. And so our team just has to be poised and ready for any time that there's a scrub or any time that the clouds open up and let us have an optimal launch window.
And this was even more unusual in that we had kind of a longer time in between attempts. Normally we can turn around and launch again the next day, but in this case, even though the launch vehicle and the payload were both ready to go and have been the whole time, we needed to just give a little bit of time for some conflicts to work out on the range, and we're back here today ready to go. And we're actually coming up on a planned hold, which means that as the launch team and the launch clock are getting closer to liftoff, the clock will pause for short periods of time to allow the team to resolve any issues that may occur in the hours leading up to launch.
And if you were listening in last time, you will probably be familiar with launch counts that you might already know. The L minus time refers to the actual time remaining until launch. And the T minus time refers to the time printed on the countdown clock that reflects the hold and is paused for an exact amount of time until the hold is released.
And by building in this time, we give ourselves a higher probability of an on-time liftoff. Today's countdown, which can be seen in the top left corner of your screen, uses the T minus time. And that time stops at T minus 4 minutes, which you can see we have entered the hold, and we are at T minus 4 minutes and holding. And we are still taking that live look at Atlas V on the launch pad. And as the countdown continues, our team is taking the final steps in preparation for liftoff. So we're looking at the rocket. You see the first stage, also known as the rocket's booster stage, which is the large tank on the bottom. That is actually two tanks, one filled up with RP-1 fuel and the other with liquid oxygen. Of course, those two mix in the combustion chamber inside the RD-180. They're burned, and that's what gives the rocket its thrust. The other interesting thing is that liquid oxygen on the outside, because it's so super cold, the outside of the tank frosts over, and that's why you see that bronze tank actually looking white after it's fueled.
Atlas is also equipped with the Centaur upper stage, which drives the payload during the second phase of its flight to its final orbital destination in space. The payload fairing, or PLF, completes the rocket and provides the aerodynamic shape necessary for the climb to space. And as you can see on the upper stage in the PLF, we'll see the logos for Amazon, Atlas, ULA, as well as the American flag. So let's learn a little bit more about how ULA builds the Atlas V rocket.
Okay, here we go. Time to answer some questions. And first one, it was perfect. She was just mentioning it here. Noah Athletics wants to know, why is it thicker on top? So that whole thing is the payload fairing. It's similar. I mean, even the Falcon 9, like in the background of my shot here, you can see the payload fairing does get wider than the body. But it's just very dramatic on the Atlas V, and especially when they're flying this 5-meter fairing, because what's weird is it actually kind of comes down around like part of the upper stage. You can kind of see it here, actually perfect narration here on screen. You can see that the upper stage is actually sitting inside of the fairing too. So they make it so the fairing kind of helps to be part of like the launch support, the structure almost of the fairing. Like they're all integrated. The fairing, the nose cone is helping to hold together the upper stage. It's just a really unique way of doing things. And so the upper stage actually sits partially inside that fairing, and then the payload fairing on the very top. Like I don't know, it's weird. It's unconventional nowadays, but back in the day that was almost conventional thinking. But yeah, you can tell it does taper out a lot, and it does almost look lopsided. Like if you look at it, it almost looks like the top is way bigger, and there's a lot more of it than the bottom. But that's still nothing compared to like the Delta III, which was pretty much the upper stage of a Delta IV, which is a 5-meter upper stage on a Delta II rocket body, which is only like Falcon 9 size. So it was really weird, like taper. This is nothing compared to that. Let's see here. Let's answer a few more questions. So from Marshall, looks like this is Marshall here. How you doing, Marshall? What's the target customer for Kuiper? Do they plan on supplying services to the U.S. government? I think they're just basically going to try to copy and paste, more or less do similar to what Starlink is doing. Just offer a supplement, a a dissimilar redundancy, so to speak, or a dissimilar option to Starlink. And I'm guessing they'll get, if once they're up and running, I'm sure they have some government contracts that would love to utilize that as well. I mean, like I said, it never hurts to have multiple things. But, at the end of the day, it's going to be a competition. It's going to be a competition between Starlink and Kuiper. And we know that Amazon, and especially Amazon Web Services, can produce, have a lot of practice with data. They have a lot of practice with just the internet. So I don't put it past them to be able to build an amazing satellite bus and an amazing satellite system. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it can compete. I don't think, I just objectively, it's not I don't think they can't compete with SpaceX on launch cost right now, period. No, first off, no one can yet. Second, when you're paying, $100 million for an Atlas V launch versus the internal cost of a Falcon 9, they're just not simply able to beat the launch costs. But they might be able to compete on terms of, when they actually get the satellites up and running, dollar per data, dollar per terabyte of bandwidth or whatever it might be. They might be able to compete on some of those regards. So I'm excited. I think we need this. I think we need competition. I would like to make sure that we're starting to pay attention to how many satellites we're launching. I would like to see bigger, more powerful satellites as opposed to thousands and thousands of smaller satellites. But that requires different orbital mechanics, different altitudes, all these types of things. Of course, there's a little bit of a concern, though, about if we have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, just making sure that they are all healthy and don't pose any risks to other satellites and therefore to our daily lives, really. Let's see here. How many satellites will Amazon be launching normally? So this is 27. And on top of that, somebody else also asked. So Go for Launch 13 asked that. From Patrick says, Tim, did you figure out the shape of the satellites? So they're kind of in a corn cob shape. There's 27 launched in a corn cob. There's a kind of a stack, a cylindrical stack with a handful of satellites packed around the outside, and they'll deploy from there. So I'm excited to see what this looks like in real life, because there is a video from ULA where they showed kind of a rendering of what that looks like. But that's actually half the reason I'm wanting to watch this today. I just like seeing new systems be deployed, new systems be flown for the first time. So it'll be really cool to see what that actually looks like in operation and during deployment. So I do hope we get to see deployment on that. So this is from Jeff in Bourne. Why do they hold? Why not extend the count? So basically, it's almost, you think of it as like two almost different stages of launch, of pre-launch. So you have your load, your whole countdown with a load, and they're doing all the ground system stuff, prop loading, getting the rocket ready. Then they basically are waiting. Once they know they're good to go there, they hold the countdown clock basically for the terminal count. Like when they hit go, that's an automated system that starts at T-4 minutes. And it literally goes through all the valves, all the timings, all the final pressures, all of the, final trajectory stuff, all the communication checks and everything. And right before they commit to that, they want to do the go, no-go pull. So then their system, they just build in, this is kind of old school, like missile days. This literally is rooted back from back then. They want to do the go, no-go check. Once that's good, they will commit to the launch by basically saying, we're go for launch, boom, at T-4 minutes, they'll hit that, and the rocket will lead itself into T0.
Atlas Mission Control at T-4 minutes and holding. Following liftoff, viewers watching the launch from Florida and points north and east might be able to see the Atlas V in flight. To get a closer look at this visibility map, check out at ULA Launch on social media.
Very cool. Of course, everybody thinks of seeing a rocket launch right here close to the pad, but even those all up the east coast of the United States will be able to see that light streak across the sky with an evening launch like we have tonight. Taking another look at the launch pad, all 27 of those Kuiper satellites tucked nicely in the 77-foot payload fairing there of our Atlas V rocket.
Big. And this Atlas V rocket is actually our 551 configuration, so it's a 5-meter payload fairing with 5 SRBs, and that's going to bring a lot of power and a lot of thrust to the rocket, allowing it to exit Earth's atmosphere and get to our orbital insertion in our low Earth orbit destination.
That's right, with all 5 solids and the RD-180, 2.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff for this largest Atlas V configuration that we fly today, maximizing the payload capacity to get as many satellites on orbit as we can tonight. So
I do love that
pretty excited to
RD-180
see
still.
this.
As we get closer to the opening of our launch window, let's have a look at the weather forecast the launch team just received from Space Launch Delta 45 Weather Officer Brian Belson.
Yes, Brian is not on with us tonight on another assignment, but he did hand us the forecast. We do have a probability of violating launch constraints between 25 and 35%. It actually starts out lower at the beginning of the window, and then at the 20% it increases up to 35% as we make our way through the window.
I'll try and move my face.
Ground winds are 17 knots out of the east, and temperature is 73 degrees. Primary concern for launch today is cumulus clouds, anvil clouds, and surface electric fields. So we are watching the weather very closely, as we always do. As we mentioned earlier, those weather rules are just as important as any other flight rule, but this weather today looks much better than our first attempt.
That's right, Caleb. And these weather rules are designed to keep the vehicle safe from wind, lightning, and other potential weather risks. And we mentioned earlier about measuring the surface electricity, and that's basically the smarter way for saying that we are watching the lightning and the potential for it to be in this area. One thing that we always notice here when you get a live look at Atlas on the pad is that you have 4 lightning towers situated around Atlas. And so that basically is there as a mitigation strategy. If there is lightning in the area, it's supposed to conduct through the towers instead of hitting our rocket and our very precious payload.
Very good. And you can get a better view of the clearer skies that we have. Still some clouds in the area, but still proceeding toward launch with acceptable weather right now.
Cool.
That'll be ignition enabled.
Here comes the go.
Box
no
2,
pole.
verify CISA purge flowing GN2 to the CISA.
Verified.
OSM, verify the FCO, ROC, and OSM whole fire switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
RLM, verify red line monitor event table are in the correct configuration for terminal count. Verified. RC, verify solar radiation acceptable for launch.
Verified. Launch on time verified.
Roger. LC, switch to the ready position. All steps are complete prior to the status check.
We remain in the planned 15-minute hold as we continue towards liftoff. In a few moments, ULA launch conductor Scott Barney will poll the team for the final go to pick up the launch countdown. The launch coordinator conducts the launch team during countdown similar to how a symphony conductor is coordinating an orchestra.
28 engineers are polled to confirm the rocket is ready to proceed. This is the final status check for all Atlas vehicle systems, ground systems, and the payload, as well as the U.S. Space Force Eastern Range. Let's listen in as he performs.
Still kind of love this part.
-8 minutes.
-8. Okay, my timing is probably way off. Let's try that. Okay, they haven't gone into the go no pull. Normally we do hear that, which is, like I said, it's kind of one of my favorite parts. I really enjoy that. It's like it just gives you a little, hype and appreciation for all the people working console, and just feels reminiscent and kind of old school in a fun way. Because we don't get to hear that from many other launch providers. We definitely don't hear that with SpaceX anymore. Although I'm sure a lot of their stuff's become a lot more automated. I'm guessing they don't have as many people on console for every one of those Starlink launches. -7.
Status check
Pretty
to
good.
proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics. Go. LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
House gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Op support.
Go.
Com.
Go.
Availables.
Go.
BCS.
Go.
Redline monitor. Go. Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Go.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count.
Cool.
ALC. Verify T0 is set for 23010.
Verified.
Okay.
It's
Or
complete,
go
and the
for
team will
launch,
Go
so
for
team-
launch.
From now until liftoff, launch conductor Scott Barney and the launch team will continue reporting the final steps in today's countdown.
This includes verifying propellant levels and pressures in the booster and Centaur fuel tanks, as well as arming the ordnance for ignition, separation, and flight termination systems.
At T-minus 1 minute, the range confirms it is in a green condition for launch, assuring there are no nearby constraints like boats, planes, or weather, and that all tracking systems are operational. At T-minus 25 seconds, you'll hear Go Atlas, Go Centaur, Go Kuiper. This is the final status check for the rocket and the payload.
To dampen the acoustic shock at liftoff, at T-minus 6 seconds, the launch pad's water deluge system activates, followed a few seconds later by the RD-180 booster engine ignition. Then, after seeing Atlas lift off, you'll hear flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing the updates as the rocket ascends. So, as you might have noticed, voices playing in the background of this broadcast, that is actually voices being played on our Channel 1 broadcast, which is our internal net system. So hearing that provides a unique commentary that you normally don't see in this industry, and it kind of gives you a feel of what our exact engineers feel when they are sitting on console here. So we are listening to that together live.
Yeah, very cool to be hearing Channel 1, the launch conductor, as well as the team as we proceed into these final minutes prior to launch. You'll hear them working through all those final steps leading up to the T0, which is now 1 minute past the hour at 7:01 Eastern Time.
Yeah, and thinking about how big this moment is and how excited we are to partner with Amazon, that is about to bring a constellation that's basically going to change the world in terms of internet connectivity. And it's really cool that we're doing this on Atlas, which is the OG of rockets. And Atlas has launched so many unique missions and unique payloads and set so many records in the space industry. So it's really cool to see a payload that's both going to share on Atlas and Vulcan as we ride into this future of ULA together.
Really is cool to launch this new era, and we were so excited about talking about Atlas. We went right past the T-4 hold release, so you can see that that hold is released and the clock is counting. We are at just about T-3 minutes and 18 seconds.
After liftoff, ULA's Atlas V rocket will fly northeast from Space Launch Complex 41. Here's a look at today's flight.
There we go. I got the clock synced now. Okay, again, just avoiding copyright strikes. Let's, we'll get to the pointy end up, flaming end down. Don't you worry, guys. This is awesome from Billy McFly90. Thank you, Tim, for putting me to sleep every night, even if that means rewatching multiple videos every single night. You rock. Hey, I gotta say, that is, some people might see that as a backhanded compliment, but that's actually huge for me. So I appreciate you watching and feeding the YouTube algorithm, but hopefully you're learning something, as you're starting to go to bed. Maybe it's processing while you sleep. I do that whenever I try watching something. Once my head actually hits the pillow, I'm gonna fall asleep, and then I'm gonna have to try to rewind and find where I was in a video that I was watching. So I'm the same way, and I appreciate it. So pro tip: if you want to support the channel, just look back for videos you haven't watched and put them on while you go to sleep. Let it play for a while, and yeah, I appreciate that. Let's see here. I was gonna say, by the way, in Discord here, Marius in our Discord realized and pointed out that, here's a perfect shot of the satellites, and my face is covering it because good job me. Let me do this. One thing I wanted to point out is Atlas V will do 27 satellites like this, but this varies based on rockets. So the Atlas V like this can actually do a lot more than the Falcon 9, can do about 20-ish. Vulcan will be able to do 40. So Vulcan will actually, it's cheaper than Atlas V. and more, more capable than the Atlas V. So Vulcan's going to be where this starts to become a lot more competitive. New Glenn can do 50 satellites in one launch. So this number will change and it'll become more cost competitive based on different rockets. So I just thought that was kind of fun and wanted to share that. So let's listen back in. Perfect. Okay, real quick. Pointy end up, flamey end down check. We've got it. Pointy end is definitely up on this rocket. Very easy to tell. Flamey end is down. You guys are good to go from my perspective. So let's hear from the actual... Here we go.
Step 3.
Yeah, they're not talking on nets right now. Sorry. I know I probably didn't have it on for a second, but we should get it go.
Verify ECS reduced for launch.
Verified.
Status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go KA-01.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We have ignition. 2, 1.
Ignition and full thrust. 5 good SRBs.
And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying satellites for Amazon's Project Kuiper internet constellation, marking the start of a new chapter in low Earth orbit satellite
View is
connectivity.
now on closed loop control. Engaging first throttle segment.
Why did I feel like that just leapt off the pad with those 5 solids?
Engine operating parameters continue to look good.
That's a cool shot.
And we've successfully completed our roll program. Hydraulics continue to operate nominally. Mach 1, Atlas V is now supersonic.
That's screaming.
Body rates continue to look good. Engine continues to operate as expected. Throttling back up.
You are hearing Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing launch vehicle ascent data.
We are now 7 miles in altitude, moving at 1,700 miles an hour. Now passing 1 minute into flight. Vehicle continues to pass through the center of the rain track as expected. SRBs continue to operate nominally. Throttling down, engine continues to burn as expected.
Can you hear the alarms from the
Body
launch
rates
pad?
continue to look good. Vehicle is now 1/2 of its liftoff weight. Max Q passing through maximum dynamic pressure. Coming up on SRB burnout. And we have good indication of SRB burnout, 10 seconds from SRB jettison. Throttling back up.
What is that sound in the background? There we go.
And we have good indication of jettison of all 5 SRBs. Engine continues to burn normally. We are now 32 miles in altitude, moving at 4,000 miles an hour.
We just heard confirmation
Coming
of
up
the
on 2
solid
minutes
rocket
in
booster
flight.
jettison. These additional motors augmented the thrust at liftoff to give Atlas rocket an extra boost to reach its circular low Earth orbit destination. These SRBs are called GEM 63s, which stand for graphite epoxy motor, and are 63 inches in diameter. The most obvious difference you'll see between Atlas and Vulcan SRBs is the nose cone shape. Vulcan has a conical nose cone, whereas Atlas has a duckbill or ogive shape. We're coming up here on our next mission event, jettison of the payload fairing. Let's listen in to Sarah.
Continues to move down the center of the range track and is moving at 5,300 miles an hour.
It's about 8,000 kilometers an hour. For reference.
Body rates continue to operate nominally. And we are now holding acceleration at 2.5 Gs in preparation for payload fairing jettison. And we have activated the Centaur reaction control system. And we have passed the Kármán line. We have exited Earth's atmosphere.
Huzzah.
Vehicle is now 1/4 of its liftoff weight.
Oh, of
And we have
course.
good indication of payload fairing jettison.
Oh, you can see it a little bit.
And good indication of CFLR deck jettison. Engine continues to operate as expected.
Flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow just called out
Body rates
confirmation
continue to
of
operate.
payload fairing
Body rates
jettison.
continue to look good.
The composite fairing protects the spacecraft as it pushes through the harshest parts of the atmosphere. Next, we'll hear callouts for cutoff of the Atlas first stage engine and separation of the booster stage, followed by ignition of ULA Centaur's second stage.
These events occur when the first stage has escaped Earth's atmosphere, getting above the Kármán line and into space.
And adding velocity, of course. I should point out that this looks like an animation, but it's actually based on telemetry. So they're taking on in the telemetry, and then the computer's spitting out a graphical representation of that. And I'll move my face from some of the numbers because those are kind of fun to see. Sorry. And for people that are going, I too wish there were cameras on this. There might be still some cameras up by the payload fairing that we might see later. But the fun thing is this is flying down the coast, so actually people out here in Maryland and North Carolina and stuff like that, even up to New York and Massachusetts, do have a chance of being able to spot this thing. But here we go. Let's listen in here for stage separation.
And we have good indication of booster engine cutoff. And we have good indication of Centaur separation. Restart on fuel and locks, good staging. Ignition and full thrust. Arlington is running nominally. Steering has been enabled as expected. Engines are continuing to operate as expected.
Good old RL-10, baby. Let's go.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T+5 minutes. We just heard flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow confirm the successful completion of today's early milestones in today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. So what we saw today, we had a nice smooth countdown, beautiful weather, beautiful liftoff, and Atlas V is on its way to orbit to take those 27 Kuiper satellites, put them on their way, and really start this new era in internet connectivity. So Atlas is on its way to making history again, Britt.
And that's what you love to see, Caleb. You love to see a nominal launch, not working any issues, and the weather window work perfectly and open up right for us at the beginning of our launch window. So as we wrap up today's live coverage, we wanted to say thank you to all of you who have tuned in on today's flight and remind everybody that for more information about ULA and the Atlas V rocket, please visit ulalaunch.com and subscribe to our ULA Launch YouTube channel. And before we sign off, let's take one last look at today's liftoff.
They get that together so quick.
10, 9, 8, 7,
Move my dumb
6,
face again.
5,
Now again,
4,
watch how quickly this
3,
thing leaps
we
off
have
the pad.
ignition, 2,
Watch this.
1.
Ignition and full thrust. 5 good SRBs. Hydraulic
And
thrust.
liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying satellites for Amazon's Project Kuiper internet constellation,
Good.
marking the start
Body
of a new
rates look
chapter in low Earth orbit satellite
You is
connectivity.
now on closed loop control. Engaging first throttle segment.
Yeah, that's still cool to me. I know it's kind of, people think the Atlas V is very old school, and it is, but man, that's still impressive. It's just, I don't know. I still love the RD-180. It's a really cool engine, and it's fun seeing those SRBs because SRBs pack a lot of punch. They're not as efficient in terms of specific impulse, but they can be just as they can be very high thrust to weight ratio, which in your first bit of launching can actually be more important than ISP because you're fighting gravity loss. So the more efficient, the more oomph you get at liftoff, the better. So that's pretty cool. So I'll answer a few more questions here. This was actually unlike the first launch attempt, this is a nice quick one here. So let's answer a few more of your questions here. Moonfest Madness misses. I miss the old Tim in his smelly flight suit. Well, by the way, do you realize it's been 7 years since I've worn the flight suit? It's been on that mannequin since basically, I think I got the mannequin in 2020, but the last time I wore the flight suit was in 2018. Can you believe that? And I still hear about it. That's kind of wild. Let's see. This is from Daniel Placid. Do you have any idea where I could find the designs for the R7 that launched Sputnik? I need it for a school project and can't find anything besides the height. Yes, I think probably your best reference for that would be, what's the website? Oh God, I had to use this so much when I was doing my Soviet rocket engine video. R7 missile. We'll call it a missile because it's the Semyorka. What's there's one website that actually has, well, I mean, first off, if you look up R7 Semyorka, which is Semyorka, that'll on Wikipedia already gives you the heights, but I'm trying to think of what that website is that I used to use a lot. that had a lot more stuff. I'll look under references here. Well, there's one from RCS Energia. But what's maybe someone in Discord remembers. Not Britannica. Astronautics. There we go. Astronautics has a lot of good info. So I trust most of their stuff. You know, you might have to double check a few of the things, but astronautics.com has some pretty good info. So that's where I would go to double check the designs for the R7. So let's see. I have something. People are asking some random things. We talked about this a little bit on the last time we broadcast, but guess what? Speaking of Atlas, we finally have, these finally got shipped to we have the Atlas and the Redstone, both flying the Mercury. This is going to be a 2-pack of rockets. Our next model rocket set. My favorite thing is that this is to the same scale as the Falcon 9 that we sell. They're both metal, so yeah, isn't that crazy? Heavy duty. And they come with these little stands, which I'm really excited about, and have like a little label on them talking about the scale and all that stuff. They're all 1/100 scale. So keep your eyes on our web store here in the near future. Also, the booster engines do come off. So if we have this off the stand, you can actually take the booster engines off, which they used to do drop engines. They literally would drop the 2 outer engines mid-flight. So it was kind of like a 1.5-stage rocket. It was only one stage of, like one fuel tank, one propellant tank, or set of tanks. So the only staging it did was just dropping engines instead of trying to restart a rocket engine. That way they could light all the rocket engines on the ground, drop the ones that were unnecessary. It was almost like, the R7, like we were just talking about, had those boosters on the side. It had 4 outer boosters and 1 center engine. This is almost kind of a way of doing that in a sense. It had 2 engines on a skirt for a booster, which I think is fascinating. So pay attention to our web store. We will be having the Mercury program as a complete set like that in our web store here, hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so. So stay tuned. We'll probably do an email alert here maybe by the end of the week. So you can get early access to that. And Patreons will probably get first dibs on them because we don't have a lot of them, and I don't know how many we're going to produce. So let's see here. This is from Gator Aaron. 3 years of awesome space coverage, 2 years of memberships. Thanks for everything, Tim and crew. Well, thank you so much, Gator. Really appreciate that. Let's see. This is from Patrick. Tim, does it really make sense having 5 boosters? I remember your KSP rocket, KSP recreating being wobbly, and I can't imagine being stable, if not in a star pattern. Oh yeah. It's 5 boosters because the topic is that the boosters are asymmetrical. So you have 2. It's kind of like this. This is a pretty decent representation here in Kerbal, where you have 2 rocket boosters on one side and 3 on the other. As long as your thrust is as long as you're not like changing thrust, there will be no wobble. The forces will all be constant. And don't forget, like I said, the boosters, unlike here on Kerbal, in real life they do slant in a little bit, so they do direct their thrust more towards the center of mass of the rocket. Now there still is going to be a little bit of induced torque from the lopsided side. There's still going to be a little bit of an offset, that'll have a little bit of horizontal vector. You didn't see it really in liftoff. But that's all okay, as long as you're planning for it, as long as your guidance and navigation plan for that. Your RD-180 can compensate for those things very easily, and you can actually use that little bit of offset to actually help with your gravity turn to help pitch you downrange anyway. So, it's not, it seems crazy, it's not that crazy. Oh, you guys didn't even see it. I had it, sorry. Jeez, you didn't see the screen. Yeah, two solid rocket boosters on one side, 3 on the other. I like how I talked about it and then didn't have it on screen. But the point still stands. Let's see. Do I have any interest in model rockets from Go for Launch 13? Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I did some model rockets. Really liked it. I like watching high-powered rockets, like when Joe Bernard launches rockets and my friends out there that launch like out at FAR, Xylofoxlin. Like I've only gone out to one high-powered rocketry event, and I really liked it. I had a lot of fun. The Cedar Falls High School team, so I live in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and our Cedar Falls High School team actually has a really cool high-powered rocket club that does some amazing things too, and that's really fun to keep up with too. So, let's see, from Alex, Ryan, is there any statistics that show the correlation between launches actually happening versus the predicted no-go ratios beforehand? Interesting. I don't know if there is, because it won't always correlate unless you filter out, like mechanical issues. But for weather, I mean, you could probably find, I'm sure someone someday will look back and find a statistical correlation between the predicted no-go and of weather violation and the actual go for, yeah, I have no idea. I don't know how that factors in though when you have a big launch window and you have a storm system moving in. Are they factoring in the probability during that entire 2-hour launch window or just at any? I don't know. I think they do. Let's see here. Oh, this is awesome from Drac Richards, a member from one. Thank you so much. Love your channel since 2017, Tim and team, and can't wait for all things yet to come. Thank you for all your hard work. Well, thank you so much. I am really excited for you guys to see what I'm working on. I just shot a video today. We shot a video last month, or earlier this month, sorry, that we're going to be working on editing here, talking kind of about the range and weather and all that kind of stuff with this U.S. Space Force down at Vandenberg Space Force Base. And then the other one that I'm working on is another Why Don't They Just? It's a really fun video. We talk about like yeeting Starship. So, yeah. This is from John Emerson. Thank you, Tim. You make laying in bed with chronic pain a little bit easier. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad I can be hopefully something fun in pain instead of pain. So Darker Waters wants to know, is LO2 liquid oxygen? Absolutely, that's correct. Liquid oxygen, and so that has to be chilled at minus 100 and 86 degrees Celsius to go from a gaseous oxygen down to the liquid state. It makes it almost 1,000 times more dense. So if you were to try to store, the reason they chill it down to liquid oxygen is because if they tried to store it as gaseous, the actual volume of the rocket would be 1,000 times bigger for the same amount of oxygen. So obviously you can imagine the rocket weighing substantially more is going to probably not going to be able to make it into orbit. That's way too much dry mass. So you have to store it in liquid propellants in order to actually get the performance out of the rocket necessary. Dechi Official, yes, I've got 2, kind of 3 in the making, but actually we kind of have 4. We're editing some stuff still from Astro Awards. A little conversation quick with the From 2 astronauts from when they're in orbit. And then 2 other scripted videos that are being worked on at the moment too. So yeah, a lot of things in the works, just kind of all scrambled, and they've been overlapping really weird, which has made a production schedule very, very not fun. Mark Nelms wants to know, do the boosters land on a ship or land on a pad? The boosters for the Atlas V land and they splash down in the ocean. Same with the main center core, also splashes down and is not recovered. It is old school like that. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Can you explain next NFL WR? Can you explain what type of boosters they just used? What fuel was this? I didn't get that. Thank you for your content. Yeah, so the solid rocket boosters are solid propellant. That's when you hear SRB or SRM, that's going to be solid rocket. They're basically giant model rocket motors. You light them. Typically, actually, you seem like you'd light them at the bottom, but actually, normally it's a charge at the top that goes through the core. There's a hollow core, basically. The propellant burns from the inside and slowly burns to the outside of these solid rocket motors. The thing with solid rocket motors is once you turn them on, you can't turn them off. Quite literally like a firework or like a large model rocket. They burn until they're depleted. Then it has, so that's at launch, those ignite right at liftoff. But prior to liftoff, they actually fire up the RD-180, which is actually one engine in real life, but it has 2 nozzles. So in my little representation here, you can kind of see I use 2 engines, but in real life it's a single engine, the RD-180, and it has 2 nozzles. So 1 turbo pump machinery, 1 engine, 2 nozzles. And that runs on RP1. Well, it runs on RP1, so it runs on Keralox, which is RP1 and liquid oxygen on the first stage. The upper stage uses it's a Centaur upper stage, which is the RL10 expander cycle engine, and that runs on Hydrolox, so liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. So it's a very efficient but very low thrust option for a upper stage. Hopefully that helps answer that question. So these 27 satellites are doing the same type of thing as Starlink, where they're going to be able to provide a global internet constellation and global internet access no matter where you are. So by having a constellation like this, the whole trick here is you have to be able to have a satellite coming over your head at any given point, because they're not up in geostationary orbit, which is much further away. was it 28,000 or 35,000 kilometers away or something. Very far away versus these are down at 500 and 600 kilometers. So they're much closer. Latency is much lower. Each satellite doesn't have to serve as many people at one time as a geostationary satellite would, which can see, a big portion of the Earth. These are just serving what's directly below them. But the problem is, in order to actually have continual internet connection, you have to have them flying overhead constantly because they're only in your view only about for 4 minutes. So you have to have enough satellites to make it so that anywhere on Earth, these satellites are flying overhead. That's what Starlink's doing, and that's also what they're doing with the Kuiper satellites. I tried watching Firefly Alpha launch this morning, asks Peter. Unfortunately, it's scrubbed, so hopefully they get that thing up in the air soon. Len Pop wants to see Tim do the moon dance in the flight suit. You probably won't ever see that. However, I am working on new music, and I am going to shoot videos for it. I think they're going to be performance videos, though. So hopefully you can find those. This is cool. Scott says, was able to see it all the way in Hickory, North Carolina. That is awesome. However, Schmitty in Columbia, Maryland did not see anything. So interesting that, kind of trying to figure out where the cutoff is there. Tina Watkinson, can't wait to add those to my collection, says Tina, with the Falcon 9s and the Mercury programs. Love the Falcon 9 rocket. I got it. I'm a pre-K teacher, so I'll be taking them into class. That's so cool. That's awesome. And honestly, I'm so excited about these because they're still, just having them made out of metal and having them made, instead of just 3D printed or something, I just feel like their quality's way better. And it's just fun to actually see them, all side by side at the same scale. It makes me really, really geek out. Lucas Simic, how long do you think Atlas V and other non-reusable rockets will still be in use before being completely replaced with reusable rockets? I'm thinking 10 years. I think if in 2035 we're still seeing, expendable rockets flying, I think it'll be very rare. I think by then the launch market will have completely shifted to reusable rockets, which is also why I think if you're not starting to make plans for a reusable rocket, I'm worried. I think you'd be too late now. Vulcan does have plans for partially reusing the engines with a smart system, they're calling it, where they basically detach the engines and then recover the engines in the ocean. I still hope we see that. I haven't heard much. I don't know if they're still pursuing that, but I still feel like you have to be reusing rockets soon to be able to compete. Because SpaceX, right now they're still selling the Falcon 9 for, we'll say roughly $50 million, but I think the internal cost is a lot less than that, maybe even a fifth. So I think there's a lot of meat on the bones if they need to start competing. If someone starts actually providing some competition, some push, I think they could cut the price down a lot, probably easily in half, and undercut whoever. There's a lot of meat on the bones, and if Falcon 9 can do that, Starship will be able to do that even more by another probably almost factor of 10. So so companies, SpaceX doesn't need to do any of that until there is competition, though. That's the thing. So, but once there's other vehicles flying, the economy will change and it'll start getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper just because of competition. So, Tina Watkinson wants to know if I'll be bringing back the Gridfin coasters. We haven't found a good manufacturer of those again, but I would like to do that, actually. I'll look into some other options, actually. I've thought about buying a 3D printer, and I've thought about just doing them myself with actually a PL, not with a, whatchamacallit, the really good one that you don't see the marks, and I think that could be a cool way of doing it. So Alaska Night, does liquid oxygen stay in liquid state in space? Yes, it has to. So it'll boil off. Don't forget, space is confusing. There's no air to interact with, so no warm air to heat the rocket up and the skin up. However, it's still receiving radiative energy from the sun, so the sun is still heating up the skin of the rocket, but there's no other thermal considerations there. So it's really cold. So if you actually are on the in the shadow of the Earth, that liquid oxygen will stay liquid forever. However, as it goes into the sun side, then it's going to be receiving heat energy, and you're going to be losing some of that liquid oxygen to boil off. It'll boil off and turn into gaseous oxygen, and it will be vented out the rocket. It'll stay for a decent amount of time, and there are considerations you can do to help continue to make it a liquid. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yes, it still stays in liquid state. And in order to start the engines need to run on liquid propellant. So if you're running the engines, you have to still have liquid propellants. Let's see here. Doc29, do you think these will be as visible as Starlink at night? So I have a hard time saying that even, because Starlink, you don't see them at night. You might see new ones that have been recently deployed at dusk or dawn, like post sunset, pre sunrise. You might see them, but once they're deployed and once they're in their orbits, you don't see them anymore. I mean, I never see. I mean, there's thousands of Starlink satellites. How many Starlink satellites are there right now? How many Starlink satellites are there right now? There's over about 7,000 Starlink satellites, and you don't see them at night. Like when it's nighttime, you just don't see them. So I hope that Kuiper has done some things and Amazon have done some things to keep these as dark as Starlink are once they're deployed, because I think that is important. The Vitamin C Squad, do you think there will be civilian spaceflight anytime soon that's actually affordable? I mean, I would like to think so, but like we were talking about earlier with just the competition of space, the cost of spaceflight won't come down until there's competition. There's no need for any of it to come down. So right now, Virgin, as far as if you were to buy a ticket, the rides on Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, like what we, saw recently on New Shepard with Katy Perry, and it's been, pretty controversial to say the least, which is sad because it should have been a once in a lifetime opportunity for people that either purchase tickets or, in the case of like Amanda getting an opportunity to fly to space should be like the coolest thing ever. And it's been marred by, I think I put my finger on it. I think it's the fact that it was being pushed on people as being this historic and big, monumentous thing, when really it's a cool ride. It's a cool experience that humans can now pay for, right? So if I really wanted to save up and do GoFundMe and sell my house and sell everything, I could fly to space. I could literally buy a ticket to space. That is not a sentence I could have said 5 years ago, right? We'll keep it at that. But I do think, until there's competition to bring that down, I don't know if Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic are pushing each other enough to lower the cost of that. So I don't see that getting much cheaper. I don't know when orbital spaceflight will get to that level. I don't think it'll ever, in the next 10 years, get anywhere near $1 million, for an orbital launch. Definitely not. But 30 years, 20, 30 years, if things like Starship and fully reusable rockets start to come into play, will we get down to that, being able to fly for $100 million? I don't know. I would like to think the potential's there, like the physical potential. None of that, if things work out optimistically as companies and as we kind of hope and plan, that could work out. Maybe. But everything has to go right for that to work out. And lastly, Brian Robertson, do you think ULA can keep up with the cadence Amazon needs to compete with Starlink? Alone, no. I objectively know they cannot. That's why Amazon has purchased rides with Blue Origin, of course, on Vulcan, on Atlas, on Falcon 9 even, and on Ariane 6. So they've purchased all of these rides to be able to help supplement, to be able to even try to keep up to get their first, the first phase of this constellation on order. So we will see. Oh, man. Okay, wait. That wasn't my last one, because Tyler Matthew Harris, keep up the great work. Thank you so much. You did not have to do that. Greatly appreciate that generous donation. That's awesome. I'm really excited that, we'll be producing some more content for you guys finally. I know it's been a while since the last Apollo video, but it's kind of been a jumble of things all coming together here. So I'm excited to get some more stuff out for you guys. So thank you so much, Tyler. That really means a lot. And Lucian, one last one from Lucian. Thank you for the chill live stream. I learned a few things, and now I really want those neat model rockets. Well, thank you. And Mary Liz had a question, and I think maybe there's a question in chat. The Falcon 9 model rockets and the Atlas model rockets, the Falcon 9s will be coming back in stock at the same time as the Mercury program. So we will have all of our 1/100 scale model rockets available at the same time. So yeah, I hope that answers all your questions. Thank you again, Tyler. Everyone say thank you, Tyler. That was insanely generous. I'm going to go eat dinner with my parents, and maybe while we're eating at their house, maybe I'll go buy a little bottle of wine as a thank you, and on that. So, okay, everybody, that's gonna do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. We get to play ticker tape break because it was a successful launch. So, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out.